Let me ask you something. You run a business? Workers giving you a headache? Talking about fair wages, safe conditions, basic human dignity. What is this? A charity? Relax. We got a solution. Introducing Fiends Labor Solutions. At Fines, we don't negotiate. We resolve. Got a strike? We'll fix it. Got workers organizing? We'll reorganize them. Got a guy talking a little too loud? He'll be real quiet real soon. Here's how it works. Step 1, you call us. Step 2, we show up. Step 3, problem disappears. No paperwork. No meetings. No unions. Our services include strike breaking, employee motivation, negotiation with emphasis, discrete conflict resolution, and our most popular package, the full shutdown. With Fiends Labor Solutions, your workers don't just fall in line, they run there. Side effects may include sudden respect, increased productivity, and nobody asking questions anymore. Fiends Labor Solutions. We don't break contracts, we break problems. Available everywhere. You don't want to look.
Joan Crawford, Hollywood, the Mafia, and the film they could not let surface. A Pizzaverse Studios documentary. A Palermo Productions original. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent DiPrio. Before Joan Crawford became one of the most powerful women in Hollywood, before the gowns, before the Oscars, before the cold steel glamour and the myth of absolute control, she was just Lucille Fay Le Sueur, poor, hungry, and cornered by a world that offered her nothing unless she paid for it with pieces of herself. That is the dirty secret sitting underneath one of the most carefully manufactured legends in American film history. Hollywood sold Joan Crawford as a goddess. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer polished her, sculpted her, lit her like a queen, and unleashed her on the public as the embodiment of ambition, beauty, and suffering in satin. Millions worshipped her face. The studio built an empire on her cheekbones. But empires built on illusion are always vulnerable to the past. Long before the silver screen, before Louis B. Mayer gave her a new name and a new voice, she did a desperate job in the dark to survive. Whether the whispered stories were physical fact, phantom leverage, or a weapon sharpened by rumor, the effect was the same. Joan Crawford's past became a loaded gun aimed directly at the heart of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. And the men holding that gun were not petty blackmailers. They were the Chicago outfit. Frank Nitti, Bugsy Siegel, murderers in tailored suits, corporate predators with blood on their ledgers and extortion built into their business model. This is the story of how the Mafia kidnapped the myth of Joan Crawford and forced the studio bosses of MGM to pay ransom to keep their queen from being publicly destroyed. It is the story of a glamorous empire brought to its knees by a canister of film and the men ruthless enough to monetize it. Because Hollywood was never just a dream factory. It was a hostage situation with better lighting. Lucille in the gutter. Before she was Joan Crawford, she was Lucille Fay Le Sueur. She was born in 1904 into a world that gave her no cushion, no safety net, no polite mythology about noble hardship. Poverty in early 20th century America was not cinematic. It was not inspirational. It was not the stuff of tasteful nostalgia. It was filth. It was hunger. It was pain in the joints, bad teeth, raw hands, and the constant humiliation of having nothing while the rich rolled past in polished cars. Lucille grew up learning the physical reality of survival. She scrubbed floors. She worked with lye soap until her hands cracked. She felt hunger often enough to know it wasn't temporary. And somewhere in that brutal childhood, she made the kind of decision that only comes from true deprivation. She would never be poor again. That vow became the engine of her life. But survival has a price. It strips away softness. It burns morality down to usefulness. Long before the studio system transformed her into a carefully lit deity, she was a desperate girl taking work wherever she could find it, dancing in cheap joints, clawing at the walls of her own life, trying to escape the gutter. In that world, desperation breeds dark choices. And one of those choices, or perhaps the rumor of one, would follow her for the rest of her life like a body buried under the floorboards. The ticking bomb. According to your story, the illicit stag film of Lucille Le Sueur was born out of raw survival. Not glamour. Not decadence. Not rebellion. Survival. A desperate act by a starving young woman trying to stay afloat in a world built to crush women like her. But in the moral theater of the studio era, where female stars were required to be spotless goddesses, that kind of past was not a youthful mistake. It was annihilation. Because Hollywood in that era traded in purity myths. Men in the industry could stagger through scandals, affairs, addictions, and violence, and still keep working. A female star, though, a whisper of sexual impropriety could become a professional death sentence. The public had to believe she was untouchable, noble, immaculate. Anything else risked moral crusades, censorship campaigns, and financial collapse. So, whether the film existed exactly as described or functioned as a phantom weapon sharpened through rumor, the outcome was the same. It became a bomb. A physical or symbolic weapon capable of detonating Joan Crawford's career, and with it, a major chunk of MGM's profits. She built her life on top of that hidden pressure. She slept in silk, but beneath the silk was the knowledge that one leak, one rumor, one canister in the wrong hands could reduce the whole thing to ash. The higher she climbed, the more devastating the fall would be. Joan Crawford is invented. When Lucille arrived in Hollywood, she did not simply become Joan Crawford. She was manufactured. That is the truth about the studio system. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was not some bohemian artist colony. It was a corporate machine, a god factory. Louis B. Mayer did not discover pure essence. He took raw human material and reshaped it into product. And with Lucille Le Sueur, he saw enormous potential. The rough edges were sanded down. The teeth were fixed. The name was changed. The voice was sharpened. The body was controlled. The gate was disciplined. Joan Crawford was born not in a romantic burst of artistic destiny, but in a boardroom. She was taught how to stand, how to speak, how to move like someone born into elegance instead of clawing her way out of dirt. MGM understood exactly what they were building. The working-class girl reinvented as aspirational royalty. The public bought it. She became the suffering beauty in gowns, the woman who could embody pain, ambition, and glamour all at once. She was not just a star, she was a billion-dollar corporate asset. And the corporation never truly forgets how much it has invested. That is why the buried past mattered so much. The studio had created a queen, and queens are expensive to protect. The underworld looks west. As Joan Crawford rose, organized crime evolved right alongside her. The end of prohibition changed the underworld. The old liquor fortunes were drying up. Syndicates had to adapt. They moved into gambling, labor rackets, legitimate fronts, and systems that produced steady, scalable revenue. They looked across the country and saw the one thing Hollywood has always been, a geyser of cash. The movie industry was making fortunes. The studios operated like private kingdoms, churning out product, manufacturing myth, and feeding the American appetite for fantasy. The Mafia recognized the opportunity immediately. They moved into projectionists, stagehands, unions, backdoor leverage, and eventually into something even more profitable than labor pressure: secrets. Because Hollywood stars were not saints, they were humans with histories, and histories can be monetized. Whispers of a grainy reel featuring the young Lucille Lesueur eventually made their way east, landing not in the hands of low-level scavengers, but on the desk of men who understood leverage professionally. Men like Frank Nitti. Nitti did not see scandal. He saw supreme tactical advantage. If he truly possessed the original negative, or successfully convinced MGM that he did, then he held the power to destroy one of the studio's most valuable stars and crater the image infrastructure supporting their empire. That is not gossip. That is hostage-taking. The Council of Murderers. The Chicago outfit was not a sloppy street gang. It was a disciplined enterprise built on fear, extortion, and murder. Frank Nitti had taken over after Capone and ran the organization with cold efficiency. He understood money, optics, and violence. He knew exactly when force was necessary and exactly when a quieter method would yield more profit. The film, or rumor of the film, was not something to dump into the tabloids for a quick splash. That would be amateur business. Nitti understood this was a long weapon, a strategic weapon. The sort of thing that could hijack a studio's future and force some of the most powerful men in California into permanent tribute. So the outfit assessed, calculated, and prepared to send west the perfect emissary for the job, Benjamin Siegel. Bugsy was handsome enough to pass through high society, smooth enough to enter rooms without causing alarm, and violent enough to make every implied threat feel very real. He stepped into Los Angeles not as a blunt thug, but as a polished envoy carrying a small metal canister in a leather briefcase. Inside it, according to your story, was the destruction of Joan Crawford. Inside it was the collapse of MGM's illusion, and once that canister crossed into California, Hollywood was no longer just making movies. It was negotiating with warlords, Eddie Mannix, and the screening room. Bugsy did not contact Crawford directly. That would have been beneath the level of the operation. Stars did not hold the vault, studios did. So he went where real Hollywood dirt always went, to the fixer, to Eddie Mannix. Officially a general manager, in reality the man whose job was to make disasters disappear before dawn. Mannix understood the language of leverage instinctively. He knew when a problem was local and when it was national. He knew when police could be bribed and when police were useless. He knew what a real threat looked like. So when Siegel placed the canister on the table and calmly explained what it represented, Mannix did what any serious fixer would do. He verified. He took the reel into a sealed screening room. He threaded the projector himself. He turned out the lights. And in the flicker of grainy black and white film, he watched what he believed to be Joan Crawford's past turn into corporate apocalypse. It was her, younger, softer, hungrier, but recognizably her. Mannix did not panic theatrically. That was Mayer's department. He took the facts to Louis B. Mayer and laid out the true arithmetic of the situation. Police were impossible. Courts were impossible. Public record was impossible. Any formal move against the outfit would expose the secret they were trying to bury. The only way to protect the empire was to pay, which meant the empire had already lost, because the moment you pay ransom, you stop being a king. You become a client. The ransom of MGM. Louis B. Mayer liked to think he owned his star's body and soul. He dictated diets, appearances, marriages, schedules, even the emotional architecture of their public lives. He believed himself to be a sovereign ruler over Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. But sitting in that office with Eddie Mannix, faced with the reality of what the outfit held, he discovered a brutal truth. He was not the most powerful man in California. The mob was. The price demanded by Bugsy was enormous. Not a nuisance payment, not a quick payoff. A ransom so large it forced MGM to reach into the dirty hidden bloodstream of its own slush funds. Mannix had to gather the cash quietly, moving around boards, books, and corporate oversight. That matters because it shows just how rotten the system already was. MGM already had emergency money for bribery, silence, and off-the-books crisis management. But this was bigger than standard filth. This was a hostile takeover executed through blackmail. Mannix made the drop. Cash for canister, silence for illusion, tribute for temporary safety. He returned to the studio and fed the canister into the incinerator without even bothering to screen it again. The film burned. The smoke rose. Mayer believed the nightmare had ended. But Mannix knew better. Men like Siegel and Nitti do not surrender their only weapon. They sell you a copy, then invoice you forever. The subscription to fear. The first payment was not the end. It was the beginning. A few weeks later, Mannix got the call that confirmed his worst suspicion. A new meeting. A plain-looking man. A folded newspaper. A quiet business proposition. Monthly contributions to ensure the continued safety of the original negative. That is the real genius of organized blackmail. The threat does not need to be theatrical. It only needs to be credible. And credibility was everything here. Whether there was 1 reel, 10 reels, or only the permanent possibility that the truth could surface, MGM now had to operate as if destruction was always one missed payment away. The studio became a silent tributary to the outfit. Money flowed from Joan Crawford's box office power into Chicago's violence machine. Her face on posters helped finance the criminal architecture of a national syndicate. And all the while, Crawford kept working. She cried on cue. She hit her marks. She fought for lighting. She demanded perfect angles. She ruled the soundstage like a monarch. She had no idea that every performance was being quietly taxed by murderers 1,000 miles away. That kind of pressure changes institutions. It changed MGM. Meyer stopped looking at Crawford with paternal pride and began seeing her as a hemorrhage, not a star, a wound, a liability wrapped in glamour. And because he could not punish the mob, he did what cowards in power always do. He punished the asset. The victim becomes the problem. The resentment Meyer felt toward Crawford curdled into cruelty. He could not hit Nitti. He could not fight Siegel. He could not stop the money from leaving the studio. So he redirected all of that helpless fury onto the woman whose face represented the cost. He looked at Crawford and saw ransom. He saw tribute. He saw the invisible drain on his empire. Crawford, meanwhile, sensed the shift but not the cause. She felt the resentment, the coldness, the hostility, the subtle but brutal downgrade in how the executives looked at her. Like an animal of survival, she responded by working harder, dieting harder, demanding more, perfecting more. She believed she had to earn her place every single day or be discarded. That is where the psychology gets vicious. She thought she was fighting for artistic control. They were calculating her blackmail value. This unbearable imbalance of power helped shape the public version of Joan Crawford the world would come to know. Difficult, relentless, perfectionistic, demanding, impossible. Crew members called her a diva and a tyrant. But behind the rage was a deeper truth. She was trying to control the few square feet around her because her actual life was being negotiated in rooms she could not enter. A woman in terror often becomes a woman obsessed with order. And Joan Crawford built an empire of order because chaos was always waiting in the dark. Box office poison. By the late 1930s, Meyer made a new calculation. If he could not stop paying the extortion, he could at least try to devalue the hostage. That is the logic beneath the Whisper campaign and the public corporate assassination that followed. The box office poison label was not just a cruel press stunt. In your framing, it becomes something darker, a move to weaken Joan Crawford's leverage, reduce the cost of carrying her, and bleed out her value in the marketplace. Meyer used the press the way power always uses the press. He planted, nudged, encouraged, and let others say the dirtiest parts aloud. Crawford was publicly branded as overpaid and commercially exhausted. It was meant to humiliate her, reduce her stature, and perhaps force her into resignation. She did not break. That's important. Because Joan Crawford did not survive poverty and build herself into a star by collapsing under public insult. She responded the only way she knew how, by fighting harder. She confronted Meyer, fired people, reorganized her professional circle, demanded more. She believed she was fighting for career survival. What she did not know was that she was also fighting to preserve the value of an extortion asset. And far beyond the private war around Joan Crawford, the outfit expanded its grip. Willie Beoff and George Brown moved deeper into Hollywood's infrastructure, subjugating unions and turning the entire industry into a larger criminal revenue stream. Crawford was no longer an isolated brick in the wall. She was just the first crack. The empire pays tribute. As union extortion spread, Hollywood's glamour became an open mask stretched over a criminal empire. The same studio heads who sold morality to the public paid bagmen in hotel rooms and alleys. The same men who fired actors for bad publicity. Quietly handed over millions to keep their productions alive. The contradiction was total, but it made perfect sense inside the system. Public virtue, private corruption. Federal investigators eventually moved in on the broader labor racket. Beoff and Brown were indicted. Executives were dragged into court. The mob's industrial grip began to unravel. Frank Nitti, facing disaster, shot himself in 1943. But the Crawford operation remained buried. That is what makes it so chilling. It was too precise, too surgical, too dangerous to expose. The executives did not dare mention it because doing so would have detonated Crawford and destroyed what remained of their own credibility. So even as the public extortion machine cracked, the private blackmail remained sealed in silence. Crawford's career at MGM, however, kept sliding. The roles got worse. The humiliation deepened. Mayer wanted her gone. She kept turning mediocre material into hits through sheer force of will, but the machine had decided she was burdensome. By 1943, she was finally fired, evicted from her own kingdom. And the extortion did not stop. It simply followed her. Mildred Pierce and the transfer of the hostage. When Crawford left MGM, the negative, real or spectral, did not lose value. The outfit did not care about studio logos. It cared about Joan Crawford as a revenue-producing public figure. So as Crawford rebuilt herself at Warner Brothers, the burden shifted with her. Jack Warner inherited not just a star, but a hostage. That is the hidden engine under the comeback story. Crawford sat for years waiting for the right script, then found salvation in Mildred Pierce. It was a role that fit her like a wound. Ambition, sacrifice, betrayal, working-class ferocity turned into performance. She fought for the role and poured into it all the terror, rage, and steel she had spent decades accumulating. Warner Brothers saw the commercial upside. The outfit saw a renewed asset stream, and so the blood tax continued. This is what makes your telling so ruthless. Even the greatest comeback in Hollywood history is not pure triumph. It is survival under extortion. Crawford's Oscar, her media performance, her resurrection as a darker and more powerful actress, all of it sits under the shadow of men in Chicago who cared nothing for artistry and everything for cash. She won the statuette. They kept the leverage.
PSA, Bambi Derangement Syndrome, BDS. There's a condition going around. A real brain itch. We call it Bambi Derangement Syndrome. Symptoms include obsessive watching, screenshot hoarding, fan fiction level lies, and the unshakable belief that you personally know Bambi Palermo. Despite never meeting her, talking to her, or breathing the same air. These people don't follow. They study. They don't criticize. They invent. They'll say, I know how she thinks. I know what she's really like. I heard from a guy who knows a guy. No, you didn't. You heard it from the echo chamber between your ears. Let me make this real simple, sweetheart. Watching someone online does not make you part of their life. It makes you a viewer. That's it, roll credits. BDS sufferers often confuse curiosity with entitlement, opinions with facts, and obsession with relevance. They'll rewrite history, twist words, and swear on their grandmother's gravy recipe that they got inside info. Meanwhile, Bambi's over here, living her life, creating content, not thinking about you at all. And that's the part that really stings, huh? So here's the treatment plan. Touch grass. Stop making shit up. Get a hobby that ain't stalking a woman online. And accept this painful truth. You don't know her. You never did. And you never will. This has been a public service announcement. No shots fired, just facts served cold. I'm Vinny DiPrio. And remember, if someone's living rent-free in your head, that ain't power. That's a fucking problem.
Bugsy dies, the fear does not. When Bugsy Siegel was murdered in Beverly Hills in 1947, Joan Crawford did not know that one of the men who had brokered her invisible captivity had just been executed. She read the paper, saw the violence, and moved on with her day. The audience, though, sees something more tragic. The death of one emissary does not end a system. Siegel was just one head of the Hydra. The account transfers, the demands continue, the machine keeps feeding, and that is the great cruelty of long-term terror. Even when the men behind it die, the psychological structure remains. Crawford entered the 1950s richer, harder, more iconic, and more damaged. She became the sculpted mask of pure will. She drank more, controlled more, demanded more. She pushed her children, her staff, her crews, herself. Every room had to be perfect. Every line had to land. Every object had to sit correctly in its place. Because if the world is built on illusion, then perfect illusion becomes religion. The threat may have eased in practical terms as Hollywood declined and Vegas rose, but by then the damage was permanent. Crawford no longer needed an active blackmail threat to behave like she was being hunted. Her brain had already been rewired for siege. Trauma in the mansion. As the studios weakened and the mob shifted toward Las Vegas, the active extortion faded. But Joan Crawford did not become free. She remained a prisoner of the phantom pressure of everything that had shaped her: poverty, reinvention, blackmail, corporate control, survival through performance, terror disguised as discipline. Her home became a fortress of order. Her body became a weapon. Her children became casualties of the same rigidity that had once helped save her. That is the devastating irony of her life. She escaped the gutter, but carried the gutter's laws into every room she entered. She built a museum of control around herself, demanding perfection from children, staff, lovers, directors, executives, everyone. She could not relax because relaxation is for people who believe the floor cannot disappear under them. She did not believe that. Not ever. Her later years, from Pepsi boardrooms to Baby Jane to the plastic-wrapped Manhattan apartment, read like the final act of a siege survivor who no longer knows how to stop fighting. She won. She kept winning. But every victory cost more humanity than the last. That is why the story is larger than gossip about a film canister. It becomes a story about what happens when a woman builds herself into armor and forgets how to take it off. The illusion survives her. Joan Crawford died in 1977. The official obituaries praised her work ethic, power, longevity, and the mythology she had spent a lifetime protecting. The press celebrated the icon. The careful public narrative held. The basement was not mentioned. The outfit was not mentioned. The ransom money remained buried in ledgers, ash, silence, and fear. But the illusion still did not survive intact. Because the final demolition of Joan Crawford's image did not come from a gangster or a studio boss. It came from home. Mommy Dearest shattered the public monument she had spent her life defending. The Immaculate Star became a cultural villain. The surviving icon turned into a caricature of abuse, control, wire hangers, and psychotic discipline. The legend was not destroyed by blackmail. It was destroyed by the trauma she passed down. That is the deepest tragedy of all. She escaped physical poverty. She escaped public annihilation. She survived the studio system and the underworld, but she could not escape the survival instincts that eventually consumed everyone around her. Joan Crawford's story is bigger than old Hollywood scandal. It is an autopsy of the entire machine. It reveals a studio system built on coercion, where beauty was manufactured, women were monetized, and silence was bought at any cost. It reveals the Mafia not as some fringe criminal force lurking outside the gates, but as a corporate partner of convenience, a blood-soaked enterprise that understood Hollywood's weakness better than Hollywood understood itself. And it reveals Crawford herself as something far more complicated than the goddess or the monster. She was a survivor. A woman who clawed her way out of dirt, reinvented herself in a boardroom, and spent the rest of her life outrunning the terror of being thrown back into the dark. She won fame, money, and control. But those things did not bring safety. They only made her more valuable to the people who understood leverage. In the end, Joan Crawford did not lose her life to the Mafia. She lost her peace to the same survival instincts that once saved her. And that may be the cruelest ending of all. This has been Joan Crawford, Hollywood, the Mafia, and the film they could not let surface. A Pizzaverse Studios documentary. A Palermo Productions original. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent DiPrio. If you want more documentaries that rip the silk curtain down and show the blood, fear, blackmail, and corporate rot behind Hollywood's golden age, stay locked in with the Pizzaverse. Because around here, we don't worship the myth. We dig through the ashes underneath it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. And thank you for riding with the Pizzaverse. For every secret hidden in a vault, every lie polished into legend, and every ghost buried under studio lights, there's still value in dragging the truth back into the open. And in this house, we don't scare easy. Joan Crawford, Lucille Fay Le Sueur. This right here was not simply watched by the camera, she was shaped by it. MGM didn't just hire her, they manufactured her into a symbol. Every light, every angle, every shadow was controlled. But underneath all that polish, different story. Bugsy Siegel, Benjamin Siegel. Look at this guy, clean suit, movie star face. That's why he was dangerous. He wasn't some loud street thug. He was smooth, calculated, and ran with the top tier of organized crime. The kind of guy who walks into Hollywood and nobody realizes they just let a wolf into the room. Frank Nitti, the boss behind it. This one, different animal. Nitti wasn't flashy. He didn't need attention. He was the guy giving orders, cold, corporate, surgical. The type that doesn't yell, just decides who gets paid and who disappears.
You ever got a problem? I mean a real problem? Neighbor won't shut up. Business partner skimming a little too much off the top. Some guy named Vinny 2 times who don't pay what he owes. Yeah, we seen it all. That's why you need The Wise Guy Warranty. For a low monthly payment, and I mean low, depending how much we like you, we guarantee your problems gone. What do you get? Conflict Resolution Specialist. 24/7 door knock service. Discreet, efficient, very motivated customer support. And our signature move. The sit down, you sit, they sit. We talk. And when suddenly, everybody understands each other. Capisce? Premium package includes forget about it protection plan, no paper trail guarantee, complimentary cannoli after resolution. We're not animals. And if for some reason your problem don't go away, we come back free of charge. Call now. Operators are standing by. Well, not operators, but guys, very nice guys, little rough around the edges. Disclaimer. Wise Guy Warranty not responsible for missing persons, sudden relocations, emotional breakthroughs, or accidental construction site incidents. Results may vary depending on attitude. The Wise Guy Warranty. You got a problem? Now you don't.
I'll pick my battles 'cause I know I'm gonna win the war. I'm not rattled 'cause I shattered all of this before. Steadier than steel 'cause I'm ready with my shield and sword. Back on the saddle 'cause I gathered all my strength for more. And I won't bow, I won't break. No, I'm not afraid to do whatever it takes. I'll never bow, I'll never break. 'Cause I'm a warrior, I'll fight for my life like a soldier. All through the night and I won't give up. I will survive, I'm a warrior. And I'm stronger, that's why I'm alive. I will conquer, time after time, I'll never falter. I will survive, I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. Like a Viking, I'll be fighting through the day and night. I'll be marching through the darkness till the morning light. Even when it's hard, I like the armor, you will see me shine. No, I won't stop and I won't drop until the victory's mine. And I won't bow, I won't break. No, I'm not afraid to do whatever it takes. I'll never bow, I'll never break. 'Cause I'm a warrior, I'll fight for my life like a soldier. All through the night and I won't give up. I will survive, I'm a warrior. And I'm stronger, that's why I'm alive. I will all through the night, and I won't give up. I will survive, I'm a warrior.